What up, dudes? It's Gaz, and welcome to the Warframe video. So today we're going over Gara Prime, and there's a couple good reasons for that. First off, she just came out pretty recently here, and Gara Normal was already a really good frame. And second, with the advent of melee nerfs on the horizon, I do think that Gara will be a very good Warframe going forward, because we might be in an Warframe ability meta, as well as AoE guns. So before we get into it, and before we go over a bunch of stuff, this will be like a mini Gara guide as well. Make sure you're subbed to the YouTube channel, and also check out the live stream channel if you want to see some live streams, because that is good. Yes, very, very good indeed. Alright, let's go over these abilities on Gara. Now, I do have some Sue on her third, but we'll go over her third as well in a little bit here. So, the first ability for Gara is going to be called Shattered Lash. You can tap the button to throw a glass shard that can deal some damage to enemies. You can hold the button down to do a sweeping motion, which will hurt multiple enemies in front of you. This ability does scale with the mods on your equipped melee. So, for example, I have the Firax Wraith equipped. It will also scale with combo multiplier. Since the Firax Wraith has built-in initial combo of 20, we get a combo multiplier, which increases our damage while using things like the Firax Wraith, while using things like the Fragor Prime with its increased initial combo. And mods that will increase your initial combo also will give you combo multiplier, so you can always have that available here. This first ability is very important for our other abilities, and we'll go over those in a little bit here. The second ability is going to be called Splinter Storm. You press it, and if you're not targeting anything, it will target yourself. And as you can see, there are some glass shards flying around us, and you will see a little meter over here that says 360 damage. That damage is going to be dealt like per second to enemies in a sphere around you, moddable by range. As you can also see, the duration is going down on this ability. If we want to recast this ability, or to refresh the duration rather, there is only one way to do that, and that is going to be using your fourth ability. The fourth ability on Gara is going to release a glass wall that will freeze enemies. It will technically give you a little bit of survivability. The enemies can shoot through this, though. Keep in mind, they can break it, and then they can shoot through it after that. Now that we've cast the fourth ability, you will notice the timer on the second ability has refreshed, and now we can just, keep having that active. Now, here's where the first ability comes into play. Now that we are outside of the glass wall that we just created, we can use the first ability to detonate the glass wall. And as you see on our damage meter over here, we've gone to a lot higher damage than before. It was at 360, now it's at 35,400. Now that is the key of playing Gara and using this ability specifically, the Splinter Storm and Mass Vitrify combo. You want to combo your 1, your 2, and your 3. And as I told you, we're not using her 3, the ability I took off, because it is not very important for Gara's playstyle unless you're using a specific augment mod. So the playstyle of Gara is to cast your 2 and basically kill some enemies, do all you need to do, then cast your 4 to build up some damage on your sphere of death around you, and then you just keep doing that throughout the mission. You kill some enemies, they're dead. Cast this again, you've refreshed the duration of your 2. The 2 will also give you damage reduction, and you just keep building your combo of damage up and up and up. Now that's when things that multiply your damage, like Rhino's Roar through the Helminth system, will be pretty important. But like I said, if you don't want to do a Helminth situation, you can use Spectral Rage, her normal third ability. We'll show what it does, but if you've seen the Grendel videos and stuff like that, it's an ability that's okay. So you cast it. Enemies can shoot these mirrors. If you use the Spectral Siphon Augment mod, enemies that die inside of this circle will drop an energy orb with a pretty high chance of it happening. But we're showing mostly a Helminth build today because I do not really use her third ability. If you don't have Arcan Energized, you could definitely run Spectral Siphon, though. It is going to be a player-to-player situation. So let's go over the Helminth build I'm using today. And we're going to talk about a couple things here, actually. So, melee damage is going to affect how much damage that your first ability does, which will directly affect how much your fourth ability is doing, and will also affect how much your second ability is doing. Let's show a quick example of some gameplay with Gara in a normal mission. Then we'll show a Steel Path mission afterwards. So this is a Fissure mission right here. As you can see, I have 2.5 million damage on my Sphere of Death around me. I'm just using... And the fourth ability, when you detonate it, it will deal damage to everything that it hits, the explosion hits, like including your glass Sphere of Death. So it's basically, she's a nuker frame that can be pretty tanky, and you can technically, there's other uses for your second ability, Splinter Storm, as well. You can put that damage reduction, which is 90% with just 30% power strength, on your teammates. You can put it on objectives. The objectives will have less damage reduction than you yourself. Like, it won't be 90% on the objectives. But yeah, she's a good nuker frame. You can do that damage per second, like 2.54 million damage per second. We had a ridiculous Rhino Roar in this squad, so we were nuking for over 1.4 million damage. So yeah, it can get kind of crazy. It depends the armor value, of course. But yes, so things you're going to want to look for on your stat stick. And like all this damage is coming from my stat stick and a little bit of the power strength. As you saw in the build, we only had 44% extra power strength set up here. But what you want to do is run things that give increased melee damage. So Arcane Fury. On critical hit, 60% chance for 180% melee damage for 18 seconds. If you run a weapon that hits lots of enemies easily, like the Kuva Nukor, even with the low crit chance, it will be critting a lot. That's going to give you a chance to proc that 180% increased melee damage, which will affect your one, giving you more and more damage. We're going to talk about Roar versus Eclipse here in a little bit, but overall, it definitely seems like Roar comes out ahead when you get to higher values of damage. Eclipse from Mirage, if you subsume that on there, it will technically give you more, like you'll stack up faster, but in the long run, you'll deal less damage because this is just to make it where you stack up faster. Like you'll get like 20,000 extra damage per explosion with Eclipse, but it's also unreliable because you have to be in the light to make this work. But with Roar, it's going to be always, say you have 2 million damage. You multiply that by like an extra 50%. That's going to be a big chunk of extra damage. It's going to be honestly up to personal preference, but Roar also will work in your teammates. But yeah, for your melee weapon that you don't want to equip, you're going to want to be running to run no Condition Overload, because Condition Overload is not going to help you here. Upfront melee damage. So Prime Pressure Point, if you have a Riven with initial combo, melee damage, elemental damage, really good stuff here. And as you will notice, we do have Augur Strike on here. If you tap the button for her first ability, it does puncture damage. If you hold it and do like the sweep, it does slash damage. So I'm going to normally just use the tap because it's faster for increased puncture damage. As you also will notice here, it's only elemental mods, no attack speed, no blood rush, no weeping wounds, which is why I think once they do end up nerfing some of these melee mods, things like Gara are going to be much more valuable. So yeah, some good stat sticks for her. The Firax Wraith, really good, going to have that initial combo. The Jaw Sword is also going to have that increased, it has high Riven disposition. It's also got the Augment mod, which is going to make it where Blade of Truth, increased melee damage, Spoiler Strike, also increased melee damage. You can combine these together. We've also got an initial combo and melee damage Riven, so this is a really good Riven for Gara right here. Basically an ideal God roll. Maybe you could go for like plus puncture instead of initial combo, but initial combo is helpful for building up that combo multiplier, which is something you do want to do on Gara from time to time. Alright, so let's show the damage difference between Roar, and we'll show the damage difference between Eclipse. So for the purpose of this testing, we will take off Arcane Fury just to make sure there's nothing weird happening. And we've also got Growing Power on here, but that should not really affect the testing. So let's start off with Eclipse. So with Eclipse, we're going to get 216 increased melee damage if we're in the light, and you'll see on the damage meter down here at the bottom right, it will actually increase, and you'll be like, oh, that's a tangible thing I can see it doing more damage. And we'll show how that might potentially be a bit of an illusion. So we're going to explode the glass wall. With that build, 44k, didn't stack up the combo multiplier at all. We're going to summon in a charger with no armor just so it's easy to see what number we're getting here from one attack. Okay, so that was a 45k. Now we were in the light, or we were in the dark technically, which is adding on the unreliability of it. And now we're going to switch to Roar, and you will see it's potentially going to be a little bit higher. Like I said, overall, if you don't have an extra Rhino, you don't have an extra Mirage, you don't even need to subsume anything. But we're going to show. So here's what I thought Helminth Roar was bugged on Gara, but it's actually not. It's just the spaghetti code of this game. So we're going to use the two. We're going to use Roar. And without proccing Growing Power, it's 43% increased damage. And watch this. It will not increase the damage more than you'd think. We only got 32k damage. And you're like, what? We're missing 14k. Well, here's the thing. In the long run, that extra damage right there from the Roar multiplier is going to come out ahead by a lot. So as you saw right there, 48k. That was actually higher than the Eclipse. That was higher than the Eclipse, and we weren't even stacked up. The longer you go in the mission, the more that Roar will come across ahead. like you might potentially have some good situations with Eclipse, like, you know, like, oh, I'm nuking down, I don't want to really bother with Roar. But I feel like Roar is more reliable as well, even though if it's not seeing, like, you're not seeing the damage bar go up. If I was to use no Roar here, let's see if I can unequip the abilities for a second here. So we'll switch to Garuda and we'll switch back. Okay, well, we can't really see it. So we have no Roar active. Let's see how much damage we're getting. We're at 131k. Now you'll be like, well, Roar's bugged. No, it's not. It's just the spaghetti code of this game. 131k, one explosion, 163k. So we got 32k damage, or yeah, 32k damage there. Now we'll use Roar. It should be 32k damage again. Okay. Yeah, there you go. So you might think it's bugged. No, it's the spaghetti code of this game. You're gonna be dealing a bunch of extra damage here when you run into this charger. Yeah, 289. Like, we got an extra like 100k damage from Roar there, where Eclipse would potentially be, you know, giving us more. We can see it damage, but overall we'd be doing less overall. So let's go over the build and we'll go over a Steel Path mission here. This video's been all over the place, but that's okay because that's how the channel is. If you don't like it, you know, please sub. All right, so here's a Steel Path Mott mission, and we've only gone 3 minutes in because I work full time now, and I wish I could play for 6 hours or whatever, but unfortunately that's not how it is nowadays. Not to mention, I mean, there is no reason to really do Endurance Steel Path anymore. I just want to show how this build would work. So as you can see right here, we're building up a little bit of combo here with our Firaxx Wraith, with because the more combo multiplier you have, the more damage you will deal with Gara's abilities, because the combo multiplier will affect it. But overall, like, you don't even need to do it. Like, as long as you stack up, like, you know, like 500k damage, and then you use the Kuva New Core for Viral procs, you're gonna be hitting like, you know, 800k. It's not really a big deal. Like I said, we're using Arcane Fury. I'd say, so some really good arcane options for Gara Prime. Arcane Energize #1, because she spams lots of abilities. You really want an Arcane Energize. If you don't, like I said, you can run Spectro Siphon. But even then, Arcane Energize is one of the most valuable things in the entire game for a reason. So yeah, #1 Arcane Energize. #2, I really like Arcane Fury for 180% increased melee damage. It scales pretty well with her abilities, making you like nuke harder. It's going to make it where you're, you know, doing this really high damage a lot faster. And then, like, there's other things like Arcane Avenger. You're getting shot so much that maybe it will make your Kuva New Core have higher crit chance. There's Arcane Aegis, which is, you know, a 3% chance. 3% of the time works every time, where it'll make you have a bunch of shield gating. And there's other things as well, like, you know, Arcane Barrier potentially. You know, definitely not Grace. If you're taking health damage as Gara at high levels, I mean, you've got some damage reduction, but it's gonna be a yikes probably. So, yeah, anyone that runs for health and armor, I consider a fool, and I would not take their build advice personally. But hey, it's up to you. You can run whatever build you want in this game. You could even run a auto mod build and probably, you know, complete a couple missions. So yeah, while you're in your 4, you're invincible. So the Acolyte will try to attack you and probably just, you know, they'll slice themselves up in some broken glass, which does not sound like a pleasant time. Just quickly go into the build again before we call it a video here, guys. So here's the thing. Now, if you want to nuke harder with Gara, you want some more range. So here's where you can change some things up. As you can see right here, we have Narrow-Minded. If you want to run some more range, just take off Narrow-Minded for a different duration mod. There's many choices. Augur Message is the lowest capacity one. And now we get another 40% extra range, making our explosion on our 4th ability another 7 meters, which will be good for like nuking Hydron. Gara's a great Hydron nuker. You definitely want a little bit more range. But the problem is, like, look at how many range mods we have in this game. I think we need to get, honestly, more range mods added. But the only extra range mods we can run are Cunning Drift for 50% extra range. Not really a big deal. And then the big one is Overextended. 90% additional range, but minus ability strength. So you need to change some things up for sure. I consider Natural Talent really nice on her, because the cast animation on her 4 is hilariously long. And then you can also cast the 2 really fast, cast the 1 to explode the wall fast. It just makes her entire like gameplay loop of create the wall, explode the wall, you know, create the wall again, explode the wall again, much more fluid. I do consider Natural Talent a great mod on her. You could technically take that off for a nuker build, as you will not really be caring as much because Hydron's lower level, to be honest. So something like this is going to be more manageable. But keep in mind, depending which level Narrow-Minded you're running, you can actually customize your range amount a lot. So let's say with like a rank like 8 Narrow-Minded, you'll have some more duration, but you know, you're only going to have 120% range. So with a max range Narrow-minded, you're going to be nearly at negative duration. I wouldn't really recommend a full rank narrow-minded, but hey, it's up to you. Like, we're at 109. Still technically enough to make it where you can nuke some enemies down. But yeah, I'm going to go with the rank 6, which will give me a decent amount of range. And I can still, like, I can still nuke pretty well. So, yeah, that's basically going to be it for the video, guys. Gara Prime is really good. Sorry if it was not a very thorough video. You can also, you can block enemy damage, technically. As you can see right here, we're blocking damage. That will help you build up your combo multiplier as well. Some people like the Reflex Guard mod, I believe it's called, which will let you auto-block. I don't really find that worth a mod slot, personally, but hey, it's up to you. Some people will use the auto-block function, and also they will be using, like, a shield, a sword and shield weapon. So something like the Sylvan Aegis Prime, really easy to block with. The blocking angle on this is huge. Do they show that on here? I don't know if they do. But it makes it really easy to block. Their blocking angle 70%. So we had the Furax Wraith on there with a 55% blocking angle. This is 70%, much easier to block with. Actually, that's the Jaw Sword. What's the Furax Wraith's blocking angle? That's a 50%. Honestly, not too big of a deal. You can easily block with this. But it's honestly going to be whatever you have a Riven for. Like I said, you want upfront damage stats like melee damage and Toxin. So things like that is what you're going to really prioritize. Going for a shield or whatever, that's going to be honestly up to you. It's going to be a player-by-player playstyle choice. Okay, guys, hopefully you found this video helpful. Like I said, I do feel like Roar definitely comes out ahead in the long run, but you can definitely have some success with Eclipse as well. And just a quick fashion frame thing. I know some people were asking about the fashion frame on my Gara. We've got the Gara Prime helmet. We've got the Revenant Agile animation set. And for the armor, we have I think this is the Mirage Prime armor set. Yeah, Mirage Prime armor set. And we have these glass shards come from Gara Deluxe skin. So you need to have the Gara Deluxe skin to get these glass shards in the back here. The attachment only works on Gara. And we've got the Crania Ephemera from the Steel Path. And as far as the Cyandana, I believe this is the Banshee Prime Cyandana. Yeah, you could definitely change that out for something that looks better in your opinion. But there's lots of clipping issues in this game, as you probably are well aware of at this point, if you are someone that cares about fashion frame. Alright guys, I'll see you in the next video. Overall, Gara Prime, I think, has a really good place in the game going forward if we do get some major nerfs here. Because these kinds of mods, like the mods we're running right here, these are not the mods that will be getting nerfs. The kind of mods that will be getting nerfs will be Condition Overload, Blood Rush, probably not Bane mods either, Weeping Wounds. The mods that are like we must run these mods, those ones will get nerfed, these mods will not get nerfed. So things like Gara will probably be remaining strong when things like Korra potentially might get nerfed indirectly from those mod choices. Alright guys, I'll see you next time. Take it easy and peace.